Hey y'all, it's February and that means we're doing a plan to can. This is a huge collaboration hosted by Jenny at Jeni Scratch Made Kitchen and Beth at the Miller Life Kitchen. And if you saw the first video, I've got the same shirt on, but it's the same day. I'm doing all the videos in one day and I'm breaking it into 2 videos. The one was the taco sauce, really good. And this one is going to be a chicken soup. And it's not going to be a chicken noodle soup. You can't can noodles, but you can the chicken, and you can add your noodles after you open up the jar and add your noodles to it, and just cook the noodles in there. But I'm not going to go over all the other stuff I went through in the first one about the jars and stuff like that. So I will have that video linked below and show you the jars and all my equipment and everything for water bath canning. But now we're going into pressure canning, and I'm going to do the same things that I did almost until we go to the pressure canner. And I'm going to show you the pressure canner. It's got the dial gauge. It's got this part right here, so that is a safety feature so your canner won't blow up. It will not blow up. This will pop open if anything happens, but that will not. I have canned for years and I've never had that happen. And this is where you have a regulator or you have weights. This is what comes with your canner, and it goes on right there, and it will jiggle a little bit, but you're going to go by the gauge there whatever your altitude is. Mine is 1,000, under 1,000, so mine is at 10, but yours might be different, so check on it. And this thing will go up with the pressure too. So when the pressure starts building up, that thing will pop up. So I don't use the regulator. I use weights, and I will show you that. I will go get my weight and I'll show you. But you can use this, but you have to watch the gauge the whole time, and make sure you watch it the whole time. All right, let me put this down. This is a weight. It comes with 2 of these rings. So just this without those rings on there is 5 pounds. So I need 10 pounds because I am under 1,000, elevation. So I'm just going to put 1 on there. But if you need 15 pounds of pressure, you would put the other one on there. It comes with 2 of them, but all I'm going to do is use my 10 pound. And that will go here. So I will show you the rest of it when we go to it. But it's got, take my weight off, and it's got a gasket here, and you want that to be really tight, and you're going to replace that every couple of years if it gets worn or it doesn't quite fit up there or it's loose. But usually your hardware store has that. My Ace Hardware has all this stuff. So I got an extra weight, and I've got an extra one of these. And also, if you use the regulator and you're using that, you have to have this tested every year. And you'll go to your local extension office and they will do that for you for free. But that's why I like the weight, is because I can watch it jiggle. As soon as it hits 10 pounds of pressure, that thing jiggles. So that kind of tells me that it's right anyway. And I do kind of watch that. I use both, but it's not scary. Practice with water. If you just put water in some jars and practice, you don't have to put the lids on there. And just practice bringing it up to pressure and bringing it down from pressure. I promise you. It's not hard to do. So then there's a couple different kinds of canners, and this is the one I'm using. I'm using the Presto, and it's the large one. That way I can take my rack that came with it, put that down there. But the other day I did chili and I did beans. So you can put a rack here, put your jars on there, put another rack and stack them up, and this is tall enough. And if you get one that's tall, you can double stack. And if you've ever pressure canned, it does take time to get all that done, because you have to bring it to pressure, vent it for 10 minutes and do all this stuff, and it is a little time consuming. So you want to make sure instead of doing 2 batches, you can do 1 batch in one canner. That is a win. So now I'm washing my jars. I'm going to get those ready. I'm going to take my canner and I'm going to put it on my stove, and I'm going to fill it with 12 cups of water. That's what my canner directions say. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything ready for that. Make sure you go check out Jeni and Beth's channel. I will have them linked down below in the description box. They are giving away a brand new canner, so you just need to comment on all the videos. And I will have the playlist linked down below in the description box. And I'll also have this recipe because it gives you a full recipe in the books, but you can also get the half recipe on the website. I will have all that information linked down below in the description box. You're just going to need chicken, you're going to need carrot, celery, the chicken broth, and onion. Some bouillon cubes are optional, and just you're going to salt and pepper it to taste. And I will have all the information linked down below in the description box and also about the giveaway. So let's go ahead and start getting this recipe put together. I have my jars washed in hot soapy water, my rings, my lids. I have got my canner ready, and I've got 12 cups of water in here per the directions for my canner. Yours might be different. And I've got my rack in there, so I'm going to go ahead and start heating up the water. I'll fill the jars with that water, and that way they will sit there and they won't fall over as the water starts heating up. So go ahead and put your jars in there, and you might want to wash a few extra just in case you need more jars. That happens a lot. So let me go ahead and get all my jars in here, and then I will go to the next step. I'm using fresh chicken here. You could also use frozen as long as it's thawed out. And I'm going to take my chicken out and cut it up, but I'm going to go through it and cut all the fat pieces out and all the gristle. But don't throw away those little pieces that you cut off. You could put that in with all the scraps from the vegetables that we're going to do here, and just keep a bag in your freezer, and you can use that to make chicken broth. Okay, I'm dicing the chicken, and we're going to cook it. Usually it calls for uncooked chicken, but this is a soup, so we're going to cook it. So I'm just going to measure out the chicken. So I need 1.5 cups for a half a recipe. So what I thought I would do, they want you to cook the chicken, so I'm going to cook it in the chicken broth that I'm using for the soup. So I thought that would give it a little bit more flavor. And you could also use chicken thighs if you like a richer of a soup, but I'm just using chicken breast for an example, but you can use any kind of chicken as long as it's cooked. I'm also adding in some salt and pepper to taste. It doesn't give you an exact recipe. The recipe says to coarsely chop the celery, slice the carrots crosswise to 1/4 inch thick, and you're going to peel an onion and coarsely chop the onion too. I am very bad at chopping, so you're only going to get me chopping the celery. Okay, now we're going to add the chicken stock and all the vegetables and the chicken in the pot. I strained the chicken out and made sure I had the exact amount of broth, and then I added the chicken back in. Then I'm going to add in the vegetables, the celery, the carrots, and the onion. And this is optional, but you can also add bouillon cubes to the recipe. So now we'll bring it to a boil and then turn down the temperature and let it simmer for 30 minutes. All right, now it's time to can. All right, my jars are hot and ready, and my soup is ready to can. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. I've washed my lids and rings in hot soapy water. I'm putting my lids in warm water, but you don't have to do that. It's just something I used to do all the time. Not boiling water, just hot. I've got my jar lifter here and a paper towel to catch all the mess. Got my hot jars here. I'm going to take my lifter and take the water out. Very carefully, you don't want to get burned. And you're going to put it on your paper towel. I've used a bowl too, but I'm just going to use a paper towel here. I have my funnel here and my debubbler, and I've washed everything in hot soapy water, so everything's clean. All right, so I'm going to get my funnel, put it on my hot jar, and I've got my ladle here, and I am going to put the soup in the jar. Now this soup was not meant to be a thick and hearty soup. This is meant to be like a base. You could eat it just like it is, or you could add noodles to it or rice. But this is just one recipe. There's plenty of recipes out there for chicken soup, but this is just a really easy one, especially for a beginner. All right, we're going to ladle it in the jar, and we're going to go to 1 inch headspace. That is about right there at the bottom of the lid. So I'm going to take my debubbler, and it also gives you the headspace. You want to make sure you get all the air bubbles out so you'll have a nice seal. So you want to do it several times, and just make sure that you use something that is not going to break your glass. A skewer works really well if you don't have all this equipment. And now we're going to check the headspace. Sometimes when you debubble, you lose a little bit of that liquid, but this one is perfect. So we're going to go ahead and clean off our lid and put our ring and lid on. I use a wet paper towel. Some people use vinegar, but I have never had any problems with just using a wet paper towel. Alright, so now I'm going to put my lid on and put my ring on, and we're going to do it fingertip tight. You don't want to put it on there really tight. That could mess it up and make it not seal. So there we are. We've canned our first jar of chicken soup, and you're going to put it in your canner. Make sure you do not do a staging where you fill up all your jars at once. Please do not do that. That is not recommended. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the next jar. So same as before, take your hot jar and put your funnel on your jar, and just take your soup and put it in your jar. This is going to be a brothy soup, so you're not going to fill it up with the chicken. So you're going to do about 1/3 chicken and vegetables, and the rest is going to be broth. We're getting some snow and ice, so this soup is going to be perfect on a cold winter day. I am so ready for spring. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. Take all the air bubbles out, and I'm then going to check the headspace and see if we have enough headspace in there. It's 1 inch. That's perfect. I'm going to wipe off the rim of the jar. Then after you wipe the rim of the jar, put your lid and your ring on just like you did before. And this is not hard at all, y'all. You can do this. I know you can. Just follow these simple steps and you can can your own chicken soup. I promise you it's not scary. Okay, now we're going to close the lid, and my Presto has this V right here where you're going to line up the V's, and it has open and close. So I'm just going to shut that, and we're going to put this together, and that means it's closed. I'm trying to do it with one hand, so it's a little bit harder to do, but now you know that it's closed, and we can start with the next step. And your canner has a plug here to make sure that if it goes over pressure, that will pop out. This is the gauge, and this is going to show you how much pressure is in your canner. So that is very important. And you're going to need to know your elevation so you'll know what your pounds of pressure is going to be. I'm in North Carolina, so mine is going to be 10 pounds of pressure. So now I'm going to make sure it's all the way closed, and I'm going to turn up the heat. And you want to make sure that you know your sweet spot. So you can practice with just canning water. You don't have to go by any of the other things. Just put your water in your jars and start regulating your canner to your stove, and that's going to help out a lot. So once your canner starts to heat up, this is the vent pipe, and you want a steady stream of steam coming out of that for 10 minutes. So don't just set your timer if you see just a little bit, but make sure it's a steady stream of steam. Say that 3 times, and then we'll start our timer. All right, I've got my steady stream coming out, and I am going to set my timer for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes is over, then we'll go to the next step. It's been 10 minutes, and I'm going to put my weight on. I am using a weight, and it's going to jiggle when it gets to 10 pounds. So what I'm going to do is wait until the gauge goes to 10, and then we'll start our timer, and then the weight will start jiggling, and that's how we know that we're at 10 pounds of pressure. All right, you hear that sound? It's at 10. And you can see the weight is starting to jiggle, so we know it is at 10 pounds of pressure. So it's going to jiggle a little bit more. You want to make sure it just maintains a good consistent rock, but you don't want it to go too crazy. So I'm going to let it go right about to here, and I want to keep it right at this temperature. So just make sure that you adjust your temp. And if you're using the regulator, you want to watch this and make sure you maintain that 10. And I'm going to turn it down just a hair, but you've got to make sure that you keep that at least 10 the whole time. If it goes under 10, you have to start all over again. So it's so important that you keep that at the same temperature. So make sure you're practicing right here. If you've never done it before, just put water in here and do the same thing I'm doing, but just practice with water and you can get to where you know your stove and you know what it's supposed to be on, and it'll be a lot easier. But you can practice with water, but you want to just maintain that. And we'll go for 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to set my timer, and we'll come back in an hour and 15 minutes. All right, we did it, 75 minutes. So I'm going to turn off the stove, and I'm going to let this sit here. Do not disturb it until we are 0 pressure. That will come all the way down to 0, and that locking mechanism will hit the metal, and I can always listen for that and know that it's at 0 pressure. So do not touch it, just leave it undisturbed until it comes down to 0. So now that locking mechanism is down to 0, so we're going to take the weight off, wait 5 minutes, and then we can take the lid off and wait 10 minutes. All right, y'all, it's showtime. We're going to take the lid off carefully. We're going to pull it back that way, and it is going to have steam coming out. So you want to kind of open it up from the back. Let the steam come out of the back instead of in the front in your face. And I automatically just take it and put it in the sink. And now we can take out our jars. And this is the best part, y'all. Look at all these jars. And I did can the chicken that I had left over. That is a tip. If you have 2 things that you can can at the same time with the same amount of times, all chicken is, or all meat is 75 minutes, 90 for quarts. So you can absolutely do it in the same batch. So that's what I did. So I've got chicken and chicken soup. So lay you out a towel and put it somewhere where your jars are going to stay there undisturbed for at least 12 hours. And you don't want to have a draft, so I always set it right beside of my stove and make a place for it because you don't want it to be touched for 12 to 24 hours. So I'm going to take out my jars carefully. Be gentle with them because you don't want to affect the seal in any way. So I'm going to take these out. And as you can see, it's mainly broth, just a little bit of chicken, but you could also, like I said, put in the noodles or the rice, but you could also thicken this broth up and make a delicious chicken pie. I think that would be perfect with this. I'll also have the canning video below where I can chicken. It is so easy, and I think that is my #1 favorite thing to can, to have on my shelf, because you can make so many different dishes with that canned chicken. So I will have that link below as all the other information that you'll need. And if you ever have a question about canning, you can always ask me and I will try to help. I waited a long time to can because I was scared, and I don't want anybody out there to be scared of this. It is really easy if you follow the directions, and I will happily answer any questions you have. Just let me know down below or in any of my videos, and I will surely help you any way that I can. So I'm going to press down on the lid on the lid to make sure that it's sealed. So everything is sealed. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rings off. And I also like to take the rings off and then press in the middle again just to make sure. And I'll also pull up on the lid to make sure that I have a tight seal. So after you do that, make sure everything's sealed. You'll just wash the jars and write the date that you canned them on the top, and you can store them on your shelf. They will go at least 12 to 18 months or even longer. So I promise you it's not hard if you follow the rules, and I will help you any way I can. So I want to thank Jeni from Jeni Scratch Made Kitchen and Beth from the Miller Life Kitchen for hosting. Go like and subscribe to their channels, and make sure you comment on all the videos in the playlist. I will have the link down below. When you comment on the channels, they're going to do a big giveaway and give away that canner. So I'll have all the information linked down below in the description box, and all the links you need to start out on your canning journey. I hope you have enjoyed this video and got something out of it. Hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I'll see y'all in the next one.